Well, guys, I'm definitely not a hand brush lettering guy. I worked in a shop. There was another person who did that stuff. Um, the only thing that I did was the tractor trailers, and it's a little easier because you're doing like a really large letters that you really didn't notice anything from 20 feet away or more. So, but I'm going to go ahead and do this since why not? You know, probably not going to be as good as, of course, as good as one of those guys that does that all the time, but it might be better than some of you guys who have never done it before at all. So anyway, I'll let you guys have you guys, if you want, you can check it out and later in the video and see how it looks. We'll see how I do. I'll let you guys watch a little bit in some high speed. Alright, so I've been stripping this off camera. I was doing some with the heat gun. I tried torch. I tried stripper, just scraping it off. Nothing comes off easy. It just takes a bit of time. But I was doing this with this heat gun right here, just to trying to get back to the. And I figured out how to get it to not take off everything and get to the right here. So I was looking here. And if you look here, just so you know, let's get the camera up a little closer. You can see they sanded it, and see those swirl marks in there? If you can even see that, let's get like right there. There, we can really see it now. You can see the swirl marks in there, and you can see there's parts where it's like it was a real rough finish. So they just went through and just hit it with like a polisher sander or something like that, primed it and painted it. So they weren't. This thing was pretty rough to begin with, so we're probably going to have it at least, probably a little bit nicer than that even, but just so you guys know, I wanted you guys to see what that was like. I'll get back to stripping. I don't know, I get tired of doing it one way because it just I don't know, if it gets tired of doing the same thing. So I just switched over to doing heat gun for a while, and it's coming off slow. Either way, it doesn't matter how you do it, it's slow. So got a lot of the inside done. Some of that was easier with the heat gun. Some of it was easier scraping it. Some of it was easier stripping it. So I'll get to the end and I'll figure out what to do. Maybe I'll just strip some more off. This here I don't mind sanding it off, but I don't know, it just ends up everywhere. So I'd rather just strip it off if I can, some of it off of there, and I don't have so much to breathe. At least then it's not all little particles everywhere, so I can manage it a little bit easier, because it rakes a hell of a dust storm if I strip that with like 36. But it was kind of cool to see this too. Worth it. So worth the extra work. It was wavy, really wavy to begin with. So we're not doing it any injustice to leave it wavy. Talk to you guys later. So we've got most of this thing stripped for the most part. I just got a few little corners and edges and stuff. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with those, but yeah, it's slow going. And I got this part here. I want to show you guys this before I flip it over. Let's get out further. This is the one side. It's got a lot of orange over it. They sanded it so the orange stuck pretty good. That's why it didn't. I mean, I could get it off separated, but it just takes a lot more time. So I was like, not gonna do that anyway. So now I've got to sand out all these little spots, the cracks here, and then get some filler on this thing and get it ready. Do the same thing to the other side. So we'll take a look at this one and I'll bring it back in on the other side. All right, so got all the spots as I could find. I mean, I'm not going to get them all. That might be one right there, looks like. Yeah. There's just no way I'm going to get them all on something like this. And that's why I wouldn't do an old Corvette. Somebody says, oh yeah, restore my old Corvette. I was like, how much money you got? How wouldn't you want to touch it? I'll send those to my friend Pete. He can do that. No, I'm just kidding. I hate doing those things, old Corvettes and stuff, because they got micro scratches and cracks everywhere. And same thing with this. But anyway, I was going to tell you guys what this is, and I've been kind of researching around, finding out, old school, the newest filler technology, they've gotten better at figuring out micro balloons. And I think these were, what they use is resin and micro balloons, and they made their own filler back in the old days. So this might have been around the beginning of the fillers stuff. So when they did something like this, they would take micro balloons and add it to the resin, and then that's what body filler is. But there's so much more to it now. There's adhesion promoters, there's all different grades of micro balloons and sizes, and then you add that to resin, and it's a whole formulation. You got to be a body filler chemist that really has figured out some of those. Anyway, I just was saying that my friend Pete, because he's doing a Corvette right now, and I feel for him. I would not want to touch it, just because it's just so much work. If it wasn't that bad, not that many cracks in it, but you never know until you strip it down, and then after you strip it and after you paint it, they might come back where you couldn't find them. You can only see what you can see. So that's why I don't like fiberglass. There's no way you could ever warranty anything. It's an old car. You can't save it, make it perfectly brand new, unless you spent hours and hours and hours on each panel, just sitting there, just taking off all the whatever, all the bad, if you can determine what's bad, the bad gel coat, and then, but it's just, in my opinion, it's just impossible to get like perfect. So that's why I don't like to mess with them. I wouldn't even touch a Corvette. Never have, never will. Alright, that's what we ended up with, all the repairs there. I know I missed a few, but I'm just gonna see if it'll make it like that. Alright, this is the other side. That's how many spots there were cracks. I mean, there's actually more. See, I think there's one right here. Yeah, but you know, some of them I'm not going to get them all. There's just no way. I looked through here best I could and trying to get as many as I can, but I don't want to, you know, really technically I should just strip all the, you know, layer off of here and go down to the fiberglass and recoat the whole thing, because there's so many cracks in it. But that's just so labor intensive. This stuff takes a long time. This compound with the micro balloons in it, the old school filler they made back in the old days, they didn't make the stuff to sand like they do now. They use a finer micro balloons. They have, all this stuff has gotten way better. So yeah, trying to sand this all down, take it all off, it'll take me half a day just to get it off here. I mean, just to get these areas right here, it took me almost an hour just to get them all the areas that are low, where I put the kitty hair or whatever this stuff is, Bondo. I actually had to make some of it. If you guys ever need to, you run out, let's say you got this, I mean, I got a quart of it. It's a lot easier to manage when you can buy it already made, but it is not cheap. So what you can do is take a little bit of filler. Let's look at how the stuff was made originally. It was made with fiberglass resin, some sort of cloth. The best one is that mesh stuff, not this. This is a little harder to work with. I just cut it up in strips and then cut it all up, and you know, make up, I don't know, I took about, let's say about that much to make a little, you know, golf ball size, or a little bit bigger than a golf ball. I did about this much, and I made about 2 golf balls, I guess. So then you just add some resin, and this stuff will get hard with cream hardener. It's basically, from what I know, I'm not an expert at this stuff, but I think that this is an MEK based product here. My guess is what's in here is MEK and micro balloons to make it color, so you can add color to it. And so I think that's what all it is. I don't know if I got my chemicals right. I can't read this. Maybe you can. I can't. But I think that's what I read before. It's MEK, but I don't know. But anyway, it's basically this stuff with micro balloons to color it, to make it like that. And the reason they do that is so that when you mix it, you can see that it's all mixed. So like when you mix up Bondo, if you use this to mix Bondo, you wouldn't know if you've got it all mixed up. When you have a colored cream hardener, you can see the streaks in it and stuff, and you're supposed to, you know, mix it till all that stuff's gone. So I think what they do is they just use micro balloons and this stuff to make that. So anyway, you just take a little bit of filler, which is micro balloons and resin anyway, and in short, and then you can add some resin to it to kind of make it work a little bit better. It's actually a little bit of filler and a lot more resin and a lot more cloth, and just mix it all up before you put the hardener in really good, and then add whatever product you have. If you want to add this stuff, you could probably do that. I just use cream hardener because then I can see when I'm mixing it, it's all mixed in. And I mixed that in with the remainder of it that I had left, because I knew I didn't quite have enough. I was like, well, I'm going to be short just a little bit. So I made a couple golf ball sizes and added them to the existing filler. And I did it on the other side too, and it hardened up just fine. Like, it's already starting to get hard. So yeah, it does work. That's the way you can do it if you need to. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later in the video. Alright, so I'm not going to film the sanding on this. It's just kind of a boring thing to watch anyway. If you can see the dust everywhere. It's a pig pen, like I said in the other video. I wasn't kidding. This thing's like, as soon as I work on it, I mean, this is like the surface of a whole car almost. And it's just, and I've got polyester primer on it because it's just so terrible. And the polyester primer takes a little more time to sand. I did learn something from Lakeside Auto Body. You know, you can learn something from anybody when you watch. You never stop learning. He uses 80 grit to sand his polyester primer, And so I don't like to finish it with 80 grit, but this is a product I'm not used to using. I'm using this illuminator. I don't really know that much about it. I've only used it the first time I ever used it. I used to use the PCL stuff for years, and the guy at the supplier told me, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he said that they stopped making it. Exalta bought out their company, PCL, and so anyway, but I had already bought this. It's very, very cheap, and it had been sitting a while, so you can see this stuff here. It was a lot of the solids is separated in it, so I'm not sure if that's the reason why, or if it's just this product doesn't sand as good, but it sands very, very slow compared to even the PCL. So I don't have anything else to compare it to other than what do they make the other ones? There's Feather Fill, and I forget what the other one is. There's two different ones, but they're both polyesters from Evercoat, and I don't know how well they sand. I've never bought them, so compared to the old PCL worked pretty well. In fact, I did that whole van with PCL many years ago, and I stopped using that. I was using Tamco. Is better, right? To me, it's like a high build urethane, a little bit better. But for this, I think the polyester is really the best bet. It kind of rebuilds the surface. You know, I think it would work better than the Tamco on this. So anyway, so I did it with 80 first, knocked it down with 150 after that, and I've got these, you know, a lot of low spots, and they're not going to feather out very good. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill these in with some polyester glazing. You know, I'm just going to do all of it, just run over it, everything I can see. It's kind of cool, this product. I don't know, you know, it's kind of a neat product. It's very inexpensive. This is like on Amazon here, it's like $60. You can get it there, but I didn't get it on Amazon. I got it at the paint store. Paid a little bit more, not much. But if you could see here, all these lows, they actually look like they're guide coated. I didn't guide coat anything. I just sanded it. So I'm going to try and catch. I'm just going to run through and do a one pass on this, try and just get all those areas. And that, I know, this product sands easier than this does. So, and I'm not, like I said, I don't know if it normally sands better because a lot of the solids separated, and it was chunky, so I lost a lot of the solids, and maybe that is why it sanded so slow. So it doesn't matter, it worked. So it just took a little more time. But I'll tell you, this sander right here, one of these, I'm telling you guys, that is a life-changing machine. I'm telling you. You use a regular air DA, then you use that thing, and you'll be like, oh my god, there's no reason to use an air one. That thing's way faster, and it does a better job. It's not just faster, it does it more even. It's like sanding with one of the big 8-inch gear-driven DAs for doing your filler. That thing is almost the same as that, and it just, I don't know, it's even better than that, I think. So anyway, let's fill this in, bring it back in. Yeah, so we got everything coated up here. I was just going to say, some people think this is spray-on Bondo. It is not Bondo. It is not. You know, there's all these different types of polyesters. You know, they're all polyester, okay? All polyesters, that's like saying fiberglass is Bondo. It's not the same. Polyester is fiberglass. Bondo is Bondo. And, you know, it's just the size or whatever of the micro balloons they use, the grade. There's just so many different things that go on in these primers. Like this one is a non-DTM, and in fact, almost, you know, this one, the Evercoat one, non-DTM. Got to have something over your bare metal. Etch primer, epoxy. Okay, epoxy's a good idea. That's why I have a lot of epoxy right now, because I'm using that. Because if I'm doing this, I use it. But you can go straight over fiberglass with it. You can go over sanded paint with it. You know, it just doesn't go over bare metal. So it's like saying, you know, in Bondo, it's designed to go over bare metal. I mean, it's designed to go over bare metal, so it's not the same as spray-on Bondo. Most people think that it's not the same thing. Anyway, I thought I'd just tell you that. And it's just like this. I'm not even sure if these are designed to go over bare metal. I haven't read the thing on it. I don't typically use it over metal, so I don't think it is. And it's because it's the grade of the micro balloons and stuff like that that they use to make it. It's finer, and they're or smaller, or they're not balloons. They're, you know, like in the filler they use micro balloons because it's you know, they make it lightweight. And this stuff, because it's, if you feel how heavy this is, and this is about as heavy as a gallon of Bondo, so of lightweight Bondo. It just depends, you know. There's a lot of things. You got to read those labels. The label will tell you what it does, and if it says don't put it over bare metal, you better not. You know, it's probably not going to adhere. All right, so there we go. That's after it's not much glazing I had to put on here, just tons of it, but it only took didn't take very long. You might wonder maybe why I didn't just glaze the whole thing. You know, it takes a lot of time to mix up the glazing and lay it down like that, and trying to do the whole thing, and it's gonna take a lot of time to do that. Take a little less time to mask it, and I'd still need to prime it. So I think the polyester primer is probably the best way out, just so you know. I haven't been working at all since it's been nothing really. Alright, so I might get this thing painted tomorrow. I think what I'm going to do, you know, it's not a car paint job I'm doing on this. I'm just trying to make it so it's painted, got the color on it, doesn't have giant cracks and ugly stuff on it. So I think what I'm going to do is, I mean, I should go over this thing again, prime the whole thing and sand it, and then, you know, paint it from there. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit. Not too bad, but it's still going to work good. It's going to meet the kind of quality of work we're looking for on this. So I'm going to go ahead and mask off the hole here, put it on a drop, paint it right upside down just like this, in a better area than this maybe, but get rid of some of this dust. I got dust everywhere. But I'm going to go ahead and just prime it with epoxy primer. I have that white epoxy primer. Then I'm going to paint it with white base coat, and I'm going to mask off my stripes, and I'll paint the clear on there. I'll let you guys have you guys behind me on that one. I think just on the sanding, I didn't really want to do all that. You can see this side didn't have as much filler on it because they did a lot of it in advance. But these sides, there's a lot of glazing. That's just glazing putty, all the white areas, and then all the sand throughs. So yeah, it'll get a little bit edgy around maybe some of those things, but I think once the stripes are on there, it'll be fine. You know, it'll distract all that stuff, and you're just not really going to notice it. And then I'll put a clear on it, and yeah, you'll see waves in it and stuff, but these baskets already had that. We saw in the earlier footage where I showed you. This thing's just so big, it's really in the way. I knew it would be, but it's like a whole car to sand, really. I mean, there's so much surface area on this. It just takes forever. All right, we'll bring it back in. Alright guys, it was kind of cool today. On Wednesdays now we're starting to meet up with some of the Wednesdays during the day. Sorry, the paint noise is kind of loud, isn't it? Sorry about that. But we're starting to meet up with some of the old school guys that I know. They're getting old now, so it's like, Richard McPeak, the guy we used to work for a long time ago. He's invited, a few of us out for lunch. We go out and go someplace and have lunch together. And, some of the old guys come, but I think some of the, I think one week Dean Lowry came, if you guys know who that is. He's pretty big time Volkswagens. And Richard McPeak, he painted the Inch Pincher, Lightning Bug, all the world famous race cars. So it's kind of cool. I take time off usually at least once a year or more just to go hang out for a little bit at the shop. And at his age now, he's like 70 something, almost 80 I think. He's still out there painting stuff, whatever, graphic stripes, whatever comes in. So it's kind of cool. But Zeke McPeak is out there with us, and his son. Some of the, it just depends on who's available. Just different guys call, and they kind of know Wednesdays are, because he's like, the same thing. He's like, all these guys are getting older. It could be me next, could be them next, I don't know. And, why not meet up now while we're healthy and hanging out and talking about good times and stuff. It was pretty fun. Yeah, that's how we did it years ago. So you guys that wonder, this is going to be the white where I'm taping off right now, and then everything else goes red. That's how it was done originally, and I was like, why didn't they put the white stripes on afterward? And that's a lot more work because you got to cover the red with the white, and you're taping off the entire outside versus just taping off the stripe. Sometimes the Germans think a little backwards, but they make some good stuff. They do make some good stuff. So we're just, let me see if hopefully you guys can see that in the frame. I'm just taping off everything. Just like hanging out with you guys and checking out what we're doing here. Yeah, it's pretty fun. You guys got a lot of humor. These guys do. They're just like, most of them in their 70s. It's just a few of us, 5, 6 guys, 7 guys sometimes. Old school guys, some of them VW guys, some just friends or whatever. If I'm off work Wednesdays, but I've been off work here for almost couple years now. I mean, I've been working, but about a quarter of what I usually do. So I'm hoping this thing ends pretty soon, or at least becomes an endemic, right? So we're hoping. Yeah, just tape off the middle. Back in my younger years, man, I would tape this so fast, and I got my chair now. Got it up higher here, put it inside the garage where I can see. It's nighttime, so just doing a little bit of this. Some of the things that have been going on, I haven't been able to really make very many videos right now because I've been watching my grandson. The daycare he goes to, so like the kids there, like two of the, they have their own kids, and it's a family daycare, but it's government subsidized. Because she's kind of a low income, and the kids from the people got COVID, the family, and then the rest of the family got it, and then they made them shut down for like 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know why they do that. It's just crazy. As soon as the last person tests negative, I think they should be able to open. But because they got to go through the government, the government has to put their nose in everything, tell them how they're going to do it. So that's how that works out, right? But anyway, I've been watching Thomas, which has been an absolute joy. When it slows down my work, I can hang out with Thomas every day. It'd be fun. He's gonna love it. Someday he's gonna be out here in the garage. I just know it. He has a major interest in all this stuff. Like I said, my girls, I was encouraging them, even though they're girls, to get out here. But I mean, at that time of my life, that was, working with those girls here in the garage, I had to pay my bills, so I had to hustle. I couldn't slow down and, teach them stuff like I can now, when I've got, I was like right hand to mouth, barely didn't make enough to pay my rent and my bills, and, so I was doing my side work on the weekends when I was younger, when my kids were little. So I couldn't really enjoy that time at all. We just got dragged. It's weird, the tape isn't that loud when you're here, but I know it goes through that microphone and just messes it up. But what can I do? I guess I could have a noise canceling one on my head, but I don't have one of those yet. I don't know, I'm looking at them. I spent a ton of money on new cameras and stuff, and it's funny, some people watch the videos and they go, "Oh, how come you got the commercials on there?" Well, it's like, I don't have control over when they go exactly and how many of them there are. They kind of do that, but I could never afford to make these videos if I didn't make something. I don't make much, but if I didn't make something doing this, I couldn't take the time that it takes. It takes so much more time to do something when I'm filming it. I wouldn't be able to do that. Let's turn this around. Do the other side. Alright, I bought 2 of those Harbor Freight dollies sitting on my rolling chair, so I know that's noisy, but it's funny, you can't really hear it when you're sitting here. But, that's the whole idea, is I figured you guys would hang out with me, we'll do some taping. Kind of fun part of the job, I think. I love to tape, I don't like to sand, but I don't mind taping. Especially when it's something cool like this, it's going to be neat. It's going to look so neat when it's got the paint on it. I just wish I was doing like metal flake or something cool. I'll probably do some of that stuff here pretty soon. You guys who are wondering, like the Gia project's kind of on hold. Waiting for parts, waiting for Dale. He's going to be here doing that. And he's got some time. He's got to do some other stuff right now, and so he's kind of tied up. So probably in the next week. He was working on someone else's car. Then he had some other plans that he had to do. Now he's doing that. And I'm also waiting for some parts. Like he comes over and he goes, "Okay, I got all these," and then I look at it and I go, "Well, did you order one of these yet?" "Oh shoot, I forgot. Let me order it." And he makes up a list, but he forgets something that he's, because his mind's somewhere else. His mind's somewhere else on with other stuff. So. And hopefully the microphone doesn't over magnify this tape. I think about all that stuff. I didn't need to think about that. When I push it on the edge, when I cut through the razor, I'm not pushing on it hard enough to go through 2 layers. So that's how I'm able to do that. To call this a human masking machine. I put my razor blade in my mouth sometimes. Shouldn't do that either. I do. Been doing that for years. Never swallowed one. Never even thought about swallowing one. But y'all shouldn't do that. I'll let you guys be the judge of those things. I'm not telling you to do it. There we go. So I want to get this done. Hopefully, my daughter's working 10-hour days right now. So our company put her on 10 hours, and they do not care that the daycare shut down. So we had, and it was like last minute. And his aunt watches him some days. So I don't have to do that all the time, but 10-hour days with Thomas is a long time. My wife watches him some too. But anyway, man. 10-hour days, take him to the park. I don't have much time to do anything out here, but I gotta get him tomorrow. So I'm hoping, so I'm burning the midnight oil out here. Hoping to get this thing painted tomorrow before I pick him up or I go out. Plus I got maintenance on the house. I got stuff to do up crazy. This thing's taking me an entire week. At least a week of sanding and stripping the inside of it. It's been really fun. Alright, so we got this done. That's how we do flames and everything. When I do flames, all you do is you lay out your tape lines just like I just did here, but you lay out flames. And we take 3/4 inch tape, fill the entire thing in with 3/4 inch tape, which take, the paint. We fill in the outsides of it, and then we tape it all off, and then put mask around the big area. Then we start spraying start with white, and you put in your yellow, orange, and red. Blend it all together. Make all your colors. Yep. That's how it's done. Okay, bring you guys back in a little bit. Alright, here's a good example of stuff that can go wrong. Anyway, we got some wrinkles going on. I should have, this whole thing should have been done with all base coat and then clear. But, of course, I got the wrong stuff. And sometimes you end up with problems when that happens. One of them is wrinkles. So let's see if you guys can see what that is. I've got on the top here, let's see if I can get you up closer. I don't know if you can even see. I can't see in the, it's too, but right here you can see the paint started wrinkling up when I was going over it. Now, it's not a fun thing to have happen. It's probably one of the worst things. But in custom paint, you haven't had wrinkles, you just haven't painted enough. Back in the old days we used to get them sometimes and it'd be, you just got to deal with it. So I'm not sure if it was the base I used was that sign paint, so I just used that as because I had it and I was like, well, I'll just burn up some of that stuff. And it was like, I have some base coat now too, so I'll probably use that. But I thought, well, I'll just use up some of the more of the sign paint. So that didn't work out. So how you deal with something like this, if you get wrinkles, I'm just going to show you real quick so that you know it is just something that happens sometimes. Like I said, if you've been painting for any amount of time and you've never gotten this stuff, you just haven't done enough. You'll get it. So sanded with very, very fine paper. I'm using 500. It probably should be finer than that. I might just scuff over it now with some, 800 or something. because it needs to be very fine. If you use a heavier scratch, it's just going to do it again over and over and over, and you'll just be in a nightmare of mess. So you got to use really super fine paper, sand it, sand the wrinkles out, and then just dry coat it. I'll show you. We'll do a little example here. So yeah, part of the problem is that I got sent out the wrong stuff. I asked for a base coat, they sent out single stage urethane, so I had ordered some more of this base coat. I'm using 1000 now, just to scuff out the scratches. The whole thing is, if it's too scratchy, it'll just do it again. It'll lift it up again. So you got to almost have a polished surface for the paint to lay on, so that it doesn't try to bite in to the other stuff underneath it. That's the whole process of what you're trying to do of getting rid of wrinkles. And now, instead of this thing taking a couple hours, it's going to take all day to do easily. Luckily, I don't have to pick up Thomas now, so I don't know. So anyway, I can just dry coat over this stuff here. Just dry coats. So if I was a little more patient when I was doing the base, and I waited a little longer between coats, I probably wouldn't have done it either. I got right into the second coat right after the first. Wait a little longer. Gotta be a little more patient. Yeah, so you get it on the other end. You get schooled by your paint. So hopefully you guys can see this. You know, I get this one day. I usually don't get wrinkles. It's not something I get. Alright, so right in the middle of all this, the camera decided to overheat. So I'm then all I'm doing is just shooting. So if you can see, it's starting to wrinkle again in some areas. Then I get some 1000 fine grit, and I'm just dry, and then I go even drier with the paint. So just barely put anything on, and you just have to just finesse it, and it can literally take hours to fix one little spot, and I've got them all over this thing. It's just everywhere. I'm really not certain why, you know. It's because I've used this material and then shot base over it before. So I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe it's because I used epoxy primer and then the base, then the paint. You know, just too many layers at once. Trying to take a little shortcut. Didn't want to do all that sanding 3 times. Now I got to play around with this for hours. It'll take me all day to fix this, at least maybe 2 days, just sitting here sanding and recoating stuff. I'll sand all this out, and then I'll spray just a dry coat like what you saw over there, just not even enough to cover it or anything. And you want the fastest reducer you can find. I only have like medium, so I might have to go to the store and get some other reducers, some fast. And because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it to lay on there and dry before it reacts with the undercoat. Because what's happening is it's reacting with the undercoat for some reason. Like I said, I've done this before with this product. Never had this issue, but I'm wondering, maybe I grabbed the... So I always tell people, don't use acetone as reducer. It'll cause problems. It'll react with your undercoats. This is what happens. So I could have grabbed the acetone. I thought I didn't, but I'm pretty sure I just used reducer. If you use acetone, this is the kind of stuff you'll run into. I just tell people not to, but you know, hey, it's just normal. And this is like, you're gonna run into something like this sometime. This just happens. It used to happen to us a lot with the old lacquers we used to use, and you just dry coat over it, dry coat over it, dry coat over it. You know, sand it all out, dry coat it, wait 20-30 minutes, put another dry coat on, wait another 20-30 minutes, try another dry coat. See what I'm talking about? It stacks up a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to fix, so it just takes time. We'll fix it up and bring it back in. That's where I'm at right now, and the camera's hot, so I won't be able to film it all. So anyway, we'll bring it back in a little bit. All right, so I moved it out of the sun, and you know, to avoid this, if you're wondering if you shot a coat of base, or you shot something with single stage urethane, and then you're going over that with base coat, go really dry on your coats. So I went a little too wet. Like I said, I was in a hurry. There you go. That's what happens. So, got all this stuff I gotta sand out. We'll do all that. So I'm using wet paper. A little bit of 500 is what I just grabbed. It's 600 usually. You can see that, how that comes out like that. And then just to get it cut down a little quicker. And then I'm finishing it out with 1000 just to kind of polish it, because I don't want it. What's happening is it's trying to dry the undercoats, so what I'm trying to do is actually get it to hold down and then just dry coat over it so that it builds a barrier of the new paint. Once there's enough of the new paint on there, you can wet coat it just a little bit more. If you go too wet, you'll be starting all over again. You just build it up dry. Takes a lot of time. Build it up nice and dry. Just take your time to save the job. So that happens sometimes. It just happens. Not very often. Like I said, it doesn't happen very often. I don't have this problem. Usually I got the right products. I just had the wrong stuff and was in a hurry. Layered the paint on too fast. A little too heavy. Wasn't really thinking about it. Just was reacting, just doing it because I had to go pick up my grandson at 1 and said you can't hurry paint. You just have to let it do its thing. Just sand out all the wrinkles, dry it all off, start dry coating it up. Hopefully I'll be able to show you that. I had to get you out of the sun because the sun was overheating the camera. Just sand it all out. I already recoated the top. This is the other side, so I've already done some of it. It's going to take a few hours to do. It takes several hours to do. Could take an hour, could take 3 hours, could take all day. You just got to just play with it. Keep working at it till it's right. Yeah, you end up with a little bit of dust in it, and you just got to deal with that later. A little junk gets in your paint. Sometimes you gotta sand down the clear, and sometimes you gotta reshoot stuff. What you gotta do. Well, I didn't want to be a painter anymore. Sometimes you have something like this, and you're just like, oh, man. I didn't want to do body shop paint. It didn't happen very much, like I said, but sometimes with custom paint, we had it happen a lot because we were putting on layers. A lot of layers and a lot of stuff, and we put it on too wet. You'd have a old paint job underneath it, or the paint that you were going over was done at Mako or something, and it was a cheap synthetic enamel, and when you put the lacquer over it, it would react with it, and you had to do it. We always ended up making it work. You just had to do it really, really dry and get that barrier there of the new base coat. And then once that's there, then you can go over it with a little bit more. You get a little bit wetter with it, and it doesn't react anymore. It's just weird. It just doesn't. There's ways to avoid it, of course. Like I said, you use the right material, which I didn't. First of all, I didn't have it. I was using on the other things. I was using single stage urethane, and it's a pain because I was getting a lot of tape bleed. And I thought, well, I'm going to use this base coat this time because I had this color. I ordered some of this color. I just trying something different, but it didn't work out. So that's what you do there. You just sand it all out. Bring it back in a second. I'll show you what the spray is like. At this point, we're not going to really worry about dust much. We're going to clean a lot of that up later. We're just trying to fix this wrinkle and stuff. You can always sand the base a little bit. Just put one more dry coat over that and fill in the scratches. Real fine grit. Everything's super fine. Don't use anything. 1,800 is about the coarsest you want to use. And I'm just going to just dry coat it. Watch, this is it. And that's it. That dry. Really super dry. And then just blow air on it. Just sit here and just do this. Blow air on it, blow air on it, blow air on it until it starts to really dry. Wait about 5 minutes or so. Then just dry coat it again. And a slow buildup. Dry coat. Let it sit there and dry. Like I said, we're trying to get a barrier of the base coat on there so that we can put more coats of base over it. Once you get it to where it's not wrinkling and you let it dry really, really good, and you let it dry for an hour and then put another couple of little bit wetter coats on. Start with something really dry and just build it up slow. That's the key to base coats anyway. If you shoot them really super dry, I might have got too wet on that one. We'll see. If I do that, I hit it with a little more air. Try and get that thinner to flash off. If you go too much, it's like if you say, hey, I'm going to use less reducer or something like that, it doesn't work either. Got to be really dry. You got to use reducer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit here for a while now. This is going to sit here until that's pretty hard. A little bit down here. Really dry. Again, I might have gone too wet. Takes a lot of patience. Eventually, like this spot right here, it starts to go down, you know. But I'm going to let that set a lot longer right now. This one's starting to wrinkle again. Might have to let that one set for a while and then sand it again. That's the process. And it takes a lot of time. Let's get you up a little closer so you can look at. Something you got to know how to fix someday if you ever have it happen. My favorite thing, wrinkles, man. I just love it. A little bit more on there, just really dry. I'm just barely pulling the trigger at all. Okay, so you can see now the wrinkles are going away here, but I got to still dry build it really slowly. Down here, they're kind of standing up a little bit because I went too wet on that first coat. It's all about the dryness. Keep working it. This is dry. Put one more coat on here. Then I still got to coat the whole thing a couple more times to get it covered, so I just dry coat the whole thing just like that. It's really dry. Once the barrier's on there, the clear usually doesn't react, but it can. Doesn't mean it's gone forever. The thing is when you put the clear on, you want to make sure it's accelerated a lot so it dries before it gets a chance to soak into the other one. You use a really fast hardener with it. That's the type of thing to do. Anyway, you guys know what I got to do. I'll be here a few hours. I'll let you guys know later in the video. Right, guys, well, I left a little bit of peel in it. Not too bad. I didn't want to blow out the neighborhood. Not too bad though. If you look at how straight it is, it's pretty good. I mean, we fudged it a bit on the last coat there. Had the wrinkling situation. Finally got that resolved. Took me about 4 or 5 hours to fix all that crap. Again, I was in a hurry. I was trying to, get done. I had to go pick up my grandson, and then all of a sudden my daughter called me and said, "Oh, we can't do it anyway." So, but I was in a hurry to try and do that, and then I pushed the base too far. Actually, what happened is I just decided to go ahead and just keep going, and I should have stopped, put one coat on, let it completely dry, and then do another coat, because when I'm over that fresh enamel or the urethane underneath, just too early to do that. So to push it really hard, even if it wait a little while, it's still not a like product, and you're going over base coat with a lot of reducer in it, and it just doesn't, it's just like putting lacquer over enamel. You couldn't do that. You could do it. We did it all the time. People go, "Oh, you can't put lacquer over enamel." Yeah, we did it, but you just had to do it really slow, progressive coats. You couldn't just bury it, and that's what I did. I buried it, and that's what happened. Wrinkled. That's what happens sometimes. Painting will school you if you don't do everything perfectly right. Yeah, it looks pretty good. This thing up on there, wow. I gotta get all the dust off of that thing, but you can imagine the bright orange with this thing on that truck. Man, this thing's gonna just be, it's gonna be a ticket magnet. Better make sure I got legit plates on it, huh? Yeah, I'm going to, for sure. Still gotta go down there and do that, but yeah, there's little pinholes in it and stuff, and a little along this edge, along the bottom. I wasn't fixing all that stuff. There's no way. It would have just taken forever. It doesn't really matter. It's a construction vehicle anyway. That's way more than what they ever put on it originally. So you guys tell me what you think. I had to put 2 coats on there. I didn't show all of it, but I did 2, and then I put it on a little fast, a little light. Just didn't want to get any runs in it. Because I don't want to polish it, that's for sure. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this journey. This was a solid week's worth of work, at least, just to do this thing. And that's not including the inside. The inside's not done. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Still, I could just, I think what I'm going to do, if I do anything with it, is going to be sand it a little bit, and then I could sand it, polish it, just leave it alone. I could just leave it alone. I could sand it and then roll it. I can use a rolling additive and make a gray color similar to what was there, so if it scratches off, it doesn't look too bad. You do that. Might do that, I don't know. Whatever is easiest, that's what I'm going to do. Maybe nothing. I don't know. It doesn't look bad right now. It doesn't really. So, and you're in there standing around anyway, and it's going to have, I think I'm going to get that diamond plate rubber for the floor or something like that to hide a lot of that stuff. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. See your comments and whatever you have to say. Bye bye.